Welcome back to Drugs and Stuff with Dave Crosland. I'm Scott McNally. This show is brought to you by TrueNutrition.com. Our code is advices, and by shopping with them and using our code, you help to support what we are doing here. I want to start out today asking Dave about BodyPower, which just happened the previous week, and then I've got some other stuff here that we're going to get into. We've got some more British slang I wanted to cover. We'll see what else comes up. Then we'll go to a quick break, and when we come back at about the 30-minute mark, we are going to answer questions from the boards over at the Advices Radio Forum. Dave Crosland, it's been a minute, man. How you been?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Yes, we've not really caught up for a couple of weeks, have we? Been busy. Yeah. BodyPower was a rather daunting event. Panned out to not be really much at all, but...
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's...
Now, I'll tell you what I heard. I heard... I had a few people actually message me. There's about 3 guys that messaged me on Instagram and Facebook. They had said, man, this is good. Because, I talked about coming out there, and they're like, this is not a great year to have come out for BodyPower. You didn't really miss much. Aaron Hudson said that everything seemed spread out. This was on a Facebook comment. He said everything seemed spread out and seemed kind of sparse. Someone else had mentioned that it wasn't as bodybuilding oriented. It was more like they were trying to get it to be like more of a general fitness audience. So the hardcore bodybuilders didn't feel like it was as much for them as it had been in the past. So I've been interested to hear what your thoughts were, because it sounded like a lot of listeners to the shows weren't very pleased.
I can definitely see why those thoughts and points are raised, and yeah, it definitely isn't as hardcore bodybuilding focused.
Okay.
It was smaller. It was it did appear a little bit diluted, but then you've got to remember that I've never been a particular fan of BodyPower.
Okay.
And I've leveled very heavy criticism of it in the past. The more involved I've got with it, the more I've started to see some of the limitations they have.
Okay.
Now, it's a business. And maybe their profit focus is a bit high, but the bottom line is they're trying to respond to the mass populace.
Yeah.
And the bottom line is that bodybuilders don't spend money.
Yeah, that is true, isn't it? at least not on stuff at BodyPower.
No, you don't as a avid bodybuilder. You don't go to BodyPower to buy your supplements, do you? You're generally fairly well stocked.
Yeah.
So the other problem is that as training and the fitness world has diversified, as competing has diversified, and as you see more of men's physique and bikini and wellness classes and all this sort of thing, BodyPower has to diversify. And the vast majority of attendees, for whatever reason, don't want to see hardcore pro bodybuilders.
Okay, yeah.
Now, people say that the stand prices at BodyPower are extremely expensive, and they are. Hello, Mrs. Meep. The cat has arrived.
Oh, really?
Yes, there you go.
Oh, nice.
Cat ass. Now, when I actually got into a conversation with a guy who owns a tire place, and he was saying that the stand prices for the expos they do are exactly the same as the BodyPower prices.
Oh, no kidding.
So, though BodyPower might be expensive, there are definitely other expos that are of an ilk in stand pricing. And so what happens is supplement company comes to the BodyPower and says, right, we want a stand, we want this size stand.
Yeah.
BodyPower go, that's 30,000. They go, but we're bringing this athlete, and this athlete, so we want a deal.
Yeah.
So BodyPower might knock 10, 15,000 off the price of the stand. Because effectively they're paying for those pros to attend.
Yeah.
Now, if only 10% of your attendees are wanting to see an athlete that's cost you £10,000, when you can get 4 Instagram athletes that 70% of your attendees want to see and they're costing you $2,000 each.
Yeah.
You can see the logic. Now, I spoke to one of the organisers who I'd been liaising with about our contribution within the talks. And I said to him, I said, so is BodyPower moving away from bodybuilding?
Okay.
And he went, no. He says, we want to offer a bodybuilding segment. He says, that's our roots, and we don't want to abandon those roots. But we have to accept that the market is far more diverse, and financially, the buying power of the people that are coming aren't into hardcore bodybuilding. He said, so what we did was we set up the underground, which previously was known as Bodybuilding Evolution.
Okay.
And it was an area that was supposed to be hardcore bodybuilding. The problem is that most of the top British guys are more than happy to do a stint on that stand, but the pros won't because their sponsors won't let them.
Oh, no kidding.
So Phil Heath had agreed to do a meet and greet and talk on the bodybuilding on the underground stand, and the time slot he was due to arrive, it was 6 people deep all around this arena.
No kidding.
And this arena is a bit like a mini gym.
Yeah.
He never turned up.
No kidding.
But not through his fault, through the fact that his sponsors wouldn't let him leave the stand.
Oh, I see.
Now, people said it was very poorly attended by pros, and yeah, there were a few messes up. I believe Sean Ray fell victim of the same situation that Scott did. They didn't organise his flights in time to get it sorted.
Okay.
But Morgan Ash was there, the big French guy, 350-pound monster. There was the new signing under Explosive 8, but I don't remember his name. I think he's Eastern European. He's a big unit as well.
Yeah. Phil
Heath, looking very good. Nathan Diasha, Luke Sandow, James Hollinghead, Dana Lynn and Rob Bailey.
Okay. Those are big names.
So, you know, if they were super concentrated into this arena, there would have been an orgasm level of hardcore bodybuilding for people to view. And bearing in mind that in this arena, you're watching these guys train, or you're seeing these guys train members of the public,
right?
Or it's open Q&A. So it's a really good space. But what needs to happen to me is BodyPower has the resources; they're just not using it. So when the sponsors come next year and say, yes, we're going to bring so and so, give us a discount, they'll say, fine, you can have the discount, but he's contracted to do half an hour or an hour in this arena.
Yeah.
And if not, there'll be a financial penalty. And that, to me, is the only way to ensure that you exploit the pros.
Yeah. So are they planning on doing that next year then?
I don't know. We spoke about it very briefly last week, and he said he would probably ring me this week and try and go through it a bit more.
Yeah.
But I do think it has the ingredients. It just isn't using them to its advantage. I mean, the area we had, the lab. So there was supposed to be the gorilla chemist. He didn't show up.
No kidding.
No. There was Dr. Dean Martin.
Dr. Dean was there, I'm sure, right?
Yeah. He was there. There was Rich Foster from Strom. There was Tom Blackman.
Oh, yeah.
There was... Who else? There was a guy from a TRT clinic, I'm afraid I don't know his name, and there was a doctor from the Medichecks testing people.
Okay.
And there was myself, and we had quite a varied topic base of what we were talking about, but there was no advertisement for what we were doing whatsoever, apart from what we were ourselves.
Yeah, which is not. It shouldn't be your responsibility to advertise that. I mean, it's a good idea to, but it shouldn't rest solely on you. You know.
I mean, I was thankful for the arena and the opportunity to speak.
Yeah.
It was a lot lower level than I thought it was going to be. It was reasonably well attended.
Okay.
The location was poor because we had the lab here, then we had the underground gym area here. Bear in mind that this is like live PA constantly. Next to that was the CrossFit Games. Opposite that was the powerlifting, and next to the powerlifting was the strongman competition.
Yeah.
It was very loud, and at the back of the stage was the PCA and the NABA bodybuilding shows.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So, as it happened, all the speakers turned in on the seating area. You could hear what we were saying quite well when you were sat down. The problem was, we couldn't hear what we were saying.
Oh. They needed, I mean, that sounds like a technical thing. They needed a monitor to come back
We
at
need,
you.
it needed but when we did a live Q&A, which was very, very bad. It got going eventually, but the problem was we couldn't hear the questions from the audience, and we couldn't hear each other's answers when we were all talking. So we didn't know what the person next said.
Yeah, so you may say the same thing as he did,
Yeah,
or you couldn't.
No idea what they said.
There's something.
Couldn't get into it.
There's something special about a conversation where, you know, Dr. Dean says something, and then you get an idea off of that, and you can build off of that conversation. Yeah.
And even having opposing views, we couldn't get a good debate going because we couldn't hear what each other was saying. Right. Constantly in the crowd, what did you say then? What did you, so it didn't work very well technically, but it was the first time.
Yeah.
And obviously with this information needs feeding back. So I think it's got the elements to do what it needs to do. I think it has to be accepted that bodybuilding is going to be a smaller part of the show.
Okay.
But I still think the caliber and quality is there if you know where to look. The problem is people don't want to wander around looking for it. So they want to just find it. Whereas in the past, it's been overflowing with pros, and every stand, the next stand you went to, there was another pro there. That level of contact isn't there now.
Huh.
But there's still enough there to satisfy a day ticket for an enthusiast.
Yeah.
If it's used in the right way. So the ingredients just need to be condensed and put in a single area where everybody can find it. The powerlifting's gone from strength to strength. The powerlifting now there is massive.
Yeah.
I believe it was the biggest powerlifting event sort of ever run in the UK in the term of numbers and the fact that there were 3 platforms running 24/7.
Yeah.
The strongman competition wasn't so good. There was no pro competition, and there were other title shows on the same weekend which sort of affected its entrance. But the strongman fraternity was very well represented.
That's cool.
So you had both the Stoltman brothers there. You had Donna, the world's strongest woman, there. You had Big Z. You had Thor. You had Bill Kazmaier. You had Darren Sandler. You had Colin Bright. You had Terry Hollands. You had Lawrence Charley, Rob Frampton, Andy Bishop, and then all the top amateurs as well.
Okay.
So the strongman was really well represented. But then those people are engaging with the customer base as well. And I mean, some of the fault has to sit at the pros' feet.
Yeah.
Because they don't engage very well. Nathan was sort of stuck on the Pantana stand, sort of in a corner a bit out of the way, which wasn't ideal for him.
Yeah.
And I just think they're just not using the ingredients very well. What they have done is they've split the food areas up, so they're now dotted throughout the expo.
Okay.
Which to me, I think works better.
Really?
Because before you had to go to a food court area.
Yep.
Which could have been a 20-minute walk, 25-minute walk if the crowds were particularly bad. Whereas now, you're only 5 minutes away from somewhere else serving food.
Yeah.
And what they tried to do, my understanding was that one of the complaints that's been heavily levied at them in the past is bottlenecks within the event. So you'd have a bottleneck at the food area. You'd have a bottleneck at these particular stands because all the big brands are in one place.
Yeah.
So what they've tried to do is spread it out and make people walk through the event, which helps other exhibitors because they get better traffic flow past them. Because in the past, you'd be in a corner and you'd see nobody.
Yeah.
But also stops the bottle build-up necks of crowds, allowing flow through the event all the time. So personally, I thought that was better.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people found they didn't like that because they didn't want to have to move around. But I thought that worked a lot better, personally.
Yeah, I could see that. I know at the Arnold, they have most of the food over in one area. Olympia, I can't even remember. I've only been to the Olympia this past year. But the Arnold, they have a food court. And then there is a couple of food things available, one in the front of the actual expo and a couple in the back. But for the most part, all the food is a 10, 15, depending on how bad traffic is, it might be a 15-minute walk over to get anything to eat. I could see how sprinkling that throughout would make sense. And like you said, it would keep people moving around. How big is this venue for? Because it sounds like it was pretty tight. Everything sounds like it was pretty close together.
No, I think if anything, room to move around was fine.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you the square footage. It was, I believe it was 2 holes this year, where in previous years it's been 3 holes.
Okay.
And they're big expedition holes. I mean, these are big rooms. You know, they're not small.
Yeah.
I mean, the CrossFit arena was huge.
Yeah. So is CrossFit's real popular over there too?
Yeah, they had 2 things going on. They had a CrossFit Games going on, then they had a fitness games going on.
Okay.
And one of the fitness game event was like a relay. So I think it was teams of 6 or 7.
Okay.
And you had a rowing machine, and you had a weighted bag, a weighted block, and some other implements. And basically, one person had to run down, then that person would then have to carry an implement back, then the next person would do a 5,000 meter row or a 1,000 meter row, then the next person would have to sprint, and they all basically had to do each event once in the team, back and forth.
Okay.
So that was the sort of stuff that was going on there. They had a big mixed martial arts competition. But that was very much at one end, and they tended to keep themselves very much to themselves. You had the APPU British finals, both in the tested and non-tested. You know, I say you had a couple of strongman events, both male and female. You had the PCA Europeans, you had a NABA show, and then you had another Fit UK or something, sort of more of a women's physique. Well, sorry, more of a bikini fitness type federation.
Okay.
That was the Friday. So there were a fair bit going on.
Yeah.
But the Friday was steady, as it always is. The Saturday was quite busy. And the Sunday surprised me, actually. The Sunday was noticeably quiet.
Okay. So you did talks at the lab and at the underground, correct?
That's correct.
And did you do anything else? Like, were you hanging out anywhere where people could come up and meet you?
Yeah, I was on the Strong Nutrition stand. I was originally going to be on the Medicheck stand a little bit, but they were quite well staffed, so I really just popped over for 5 minutes for a chat.
Okay.
And then I dropped by the Youth Revisited stand a little bit as well, but didn't really spend any time there. To be honest, whereas in previous BodyPowers it seemed to have been quite long days, it literally was, we got going, and the next thing I know, fucking hell, we're going home.
Wow.
It just seemed to go really, really quick.
So it sounds like you had a good time then. Yeah.
I don't know. And I did come away very sort of, I don't know what to think about that.
Okay, interesting.
I don't know what I expected with the talks. Yeah. I really don't. I was appreciative of the opportunity, and I think I'd probably wound myself up a little bit in regards to what the talks were doing. I mean, I didn't pick the easiest subject for one of them.
Okay. What were your, because you had tentative topics, but you didn't tell us.
I apologize. So my first one was on the Friday was Blast Cruise PCT.
Okay.
So I looked at endocrine system shutdown, what it actually is, what PCT actually does.
Ah, interesting. That's a good one.
And what your options are between Blast and Cruise. So what each of the drugs in PCT actually do, because they're very often misconceived about why we use Novadex and why we use Clomid.
Sure.
And then the second day, I didn't have anything prepared.
Okay.
So I decided I was going to do steroid use and social drivers.
Okay.
So look at what drives steroid use forward, reasons for use and that sort of thing. And it ended up going off on all sorts of weird tangents. But I believe from FEDA that was probably the talk that was enjoyed the most. And I ended up standing there just battling it out for about an hour straight. And then on the Sunday, I did steroids and impact within the brain.
Oh, that had to be a dense one. Now, was that in the lab for that one?
Yeah, that was in the lab. And then on the underground on the Friday, I pulled people out of the audience and showed them how to do exercises that they were struggling with.
Okay.
So basically, we didn't have a massive crowd, but we had enough. And it was like, okay, right, what body part do you struggle to engage with, or what exercise do you struggle to get any feel out of?
Yeah.
And we brought them in and we took them through it and give them pits and tweaks and stuff to get them so they could feel the exercises so much better. And obviously everyone else is able to watch that at the same time.
That's cool.
And then on the Sunday, I had an early slot and it was dead. So we ended up just basically pissing about, and I did a bit of a spoof interview with Leisha Gelsey that ended up getting quite serious towards the end, but it started off as a bit of a piss take.
Really?
So we started off with stupid questions, and then it got a bit more serious, and then we actually got into some quite meaty subjects about, we covered the disability class question that we raised a few episodes ago.
Oh.
And you know, how do you judge that? How do you look at that? We talked about people being in the wrong class when they're on stage, and should they be pulled and put into the correct class? Should there be a minimum entry requirement on stage? So can the fat white guy that's never trained a day in his life still don a pair of trunks and stand on stage? Is that fair?
Yeah. What were the conclusions about the disability part?
Yeah, again? Hang on, you'll have to tell me that again.
All right, yeah.
See, Scott says, get headphones, Dave, get headphones. It's so much better, and I keep pulling the bloody wire.
What kind of response did you get about the disability contest stuff? Because we had shown a guy who was he had his arms and legs amputated, it looked like, and he just was a torso with abs. And he was competing in a PCA show, and you and I were discussing, what is this even competition? Like, how do you compare this guy with no limbs to, say, another guy that has maybe 2 limbs, for instance? What were the thoughts, the response you got about disabilities?
Leisha was very supportive of the class, and she felt that everybody had a right to compete, but she did accept that there were difficulties in judging. Okay. When you had such a broad spectrum, because effectively what you were doing, if it was as the current classes stand, you were putting bikini, physique, heavyweight, open, 212, all together on one stage and then saying pick the best bodybuilder. So she accepted that there were difficulties in judging. She accepted at this stage that it was too poorly attended to be able to subcategorize the class. So therefore they had to, as much as they could, consider the physical and mental limitations of the athletes that were on stage. But she was very strong in her opinion that they all deserve the opportunity to show their efforts.
Okay, I mean, I think that's fair enough. And she mirrored that on the, well, she continued with that vein on the minimum standard comment. Okay. She said, no, everybody's entitled to stand up there. She goes, the fact that someone stands up there who's pale white, no tan, no diet, no obvious training, means that the judging to the criteria will place them where they deserve to place. So she did. Sure. She said she didn't feel it was disrespectful to the other athletes because that person would get no consideration in meeting the criteria of that class. Yeah, as long as, now imagine this. Imagine if you had 10 guys that all showed up, not tan, not trained, and then you actually had to judge them, like who was the least fat, that type of thing. That would be a problem if it got that watered down.
I think in that case you'd just have to stop the class, wouldn't you? Because nobody would meet the criteria. Yeah. So I mean, there is argument for those that are misguided against those that are deliberately taking the piss. Yeah. But that she actually said afterwards she really enjoyed that. She wouldn't mind doing that again next year. That's cool. I think the potential of some sort of round table discussion in that area would work really well. Yeah. I know, not this year, but obviously last year when Scott was there, we had a bit of a back and forth with, I think Josh Malley was in there with us as well. And that worked really well, having all the different opinions and people being able to pick at it. Yeah. And I believe there was a gentleman that had come over with Scott who was very, very good at asking questions that really opened up conversation. As I say, I think that the ingredients are there. It felt thrown together. Whether that was a reflection of it actually being thrown together, I don't know. Yeah. I found BodyPower as an organisation not the easiest to work with. Communication was poor, response was poor. And then it didn't help that the week before BodyPower, Mike and Lisa's gym burnt down.
Oh, no kidding. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so they were sort of heads up their asses the week before because obviously they were trying to deal with all that side of things as well.
Yeah.
And when I say burnt down, I mean literally burnt down.
That's crazy, man.
As in half the building's no longer there, the equipment's just completely trashed.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Was it just a case of poor coordination, or is there an inherent problem at BodyPower with this area being dealt with because there's nobody really at BodyPower that has an understanding of the bodybuilding side of things?
Yeah.
So I don't know, is the honest answer. And whether I'll be asked to have more involvement next year or not, I don't know. Whether I would want more involvement or not next year, I don't know. Are they going to continue with the talks next year? I don't know. Is it viable to continue with the talks? I don't know. I know it sounds a bit of a cop-out, but I really haven't decided where I sit with it all. Yeah. I really don't know. I mean, when we did the live Q&A, the TRT doctor, the guy from the TRT clinic, actually walked off stage. He felt, as a doctor of medicine, he couldn't be involved in the conversation that discussed steroid dosing.
Really? Because he didn't. I mean, I could see that.
I can see his ethical standpoint, but my argument is if you're not in the conversation, you can't have your point.
Yeah.
You've got to be there to say your point. And if he's against what's being said, then the only way he's going to make that point is to say it. And if he wasn't there, he couldn't say it.
Yeah.
So I found that a bit daft. But, if he wanted to throw his rattle out the pram, that's his choice at the end of the day.
Did you say daft with a D?
Yes, daft. Stupid.
Okay. And
don't you have the word daft in Americanisms?
We don't use it.
No.
It is, but we don't really use it. We also don't have the word faff.
Faff as in a mess or a lot of hassle, not worth bothering.
Yeah, waste of time.
Yeah.
How about this one? A chav.
That is a rather annoying individual. Yes.
Okay. Oh,
a delinquent.
he has this as white trash. He says.
Yeah, I think that's probably close to it. The sort of low morals, low standards, very flash with clothing and jewelry and that sort of thing.
Okay. You guys have a different type of
crass.
How do you say it?
A very crass individual.
Crass. You guys have like a different type of thug than we do here. I've seen guys that wear like tracksuits and tennis shoes.
Chavs.
Those are chavs. They wear tracksuits and tennis shoes that all match, and it's kind of funny to me because they look very, very white guy in tracksuits.
In Scotland, they call them Neds.
Neds.
And that stands for non-educated delinquent.
You're not allowed to wear. I heard this. It was in Ireland. I don't know about where you're at. They weren't allowed to wear tennis shoes into a bar. Yeah,
I mean, you go back 20 years, and some bars wouldn't even let you in without shirt and tie.
Really? Okay. Wow.
And that's diluted over time, and then it was they'd allow you in nice tops, and then they started to allow you in jeans. But and most now will allow, trainers, sneakers, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
Most will allow that now, but there are still some establishments that would look down upon it, shall we say?
Yeah, it was like considered like riffraff would wear trainers.
The big argument was at the time. I remember one of a club in Birmingham who was one of the first clubs in the area to allow jeans and trainers in.
Yeah.
And the big argument was that branded jeans can cost several £100s and branded trainers can cost several £100, where you could get a pair of dress pants and shoes for 20 quid down the market. And that was the argument behind it. But obviously it's difficult to enforce. Doormen have always been very, very reliant on rules. So you can't get in because you're wearing trainers. You can't get in wearing jeans.
Yeah.
So to start saying, right, what you have to do now is judge the individual, not what they're wearing. Well, that's like, for fuck's sake. It's a lot easier just to go no jeans, no trainers. So it was a difficult process to convert at the time. But obviously over time, especially over here, you see the nighttime economy over in the UK has definitely died.
Okay.
And though you've still got your big cities that have a good vibrant hub, like your secondary towns, like the town I am closest to, it's crap. It's absolutely crap. And people just aren't interested in going out. So bars have had to really not put limitations on who they can let in because they're desperate for the business.
Yeah.
So it's got very much, I think most now nighttime venues would not allow tracksuits and that sort of casual wear, but they'd allow jeans and trainers and t-shirts.
Okay, yeah, we have I think similar rules depending on where you go. It's not really enforced. You could go anywhere, I guess, almost anywhere, wearing like tracksuit, joggers, stuff like that. But I think that like it would be looked down on in some places. I know if there's a bowling alley around here called Lucky Strike, and they actually have dress code rules. Like you need to be in at least like somewhat of a dressy state. You can't just wear, t-shirt and jeans in. They want you to put on a little bit of class. I thought it had something to do though with like I don't know if you call them gang members, but like the hooligans that would wear that kind of outfit, almost like those were ruffians versus.
I have known in the past. I mean, certain brands were very popular with those sorts. So Chavs were very, very keen on Nike Air, and a brand of footwear called Rockport.
Oh yeah, I know Rockport.
Yeah, right.
They like Rockports over there, huh? Because like Rockport is pretty.
It's sort of died. It's sort of gone now.
Okay.
But go back a few years. It was very, very popular, and I knew bars that banned Nike Air trainers and banned Rockport shoes.
No kidding. Wow.
Yeah. Huh. I know a bar local to me that banned man bags.
Why? Because it's just because they don't. They why?
Because
what's the reason?
Because all the drug dealers used to use them.
Oh, no kidding.
So they just said you can't come in them because they look. It was associated with people dealing drugs. They looked like the bar felt that had an image of drug dealing, so they just banned them. You weren't allowed in with them.
Huh? No kidding. I never heard that one before. I don't think our drug dealers did that either.
There's still venues locally to me that will restrict certain items of clothing, particularly workwear, work boots, casual wear, and say sports joggers and that sort of thing. Yeah. They won't let that level of casual in.
Okay. I've got some slang here from Wales. I wanted to run this past you.
I'm not going to have a clue. It probably just says sheep, sheep.
Some of these things I think translate. Like, do you ever use the word tidy, meaning good?
Yeah, and it's often used as a descriptive word for the female.
Okay, yeah.
She's tidy, or even she's bang tidy, meaning she's particularly good looking.
What did I watch? I watched a TV show from the UK called The In-Betweeners. Are you familiar with that one?
I am, but I've never really watched it myself. I know the basic concept of it.
They used the word fit. They'd be like, "Oh, she's fit."
Yeah, that's that. I think that's really quite an old word now.
Is it?
It's not one I particularly hear. Say that my wife said I was fit today. Yes.
Yeah.
But she's obviously still taking the drugs. I'm slipping into a tea, and it's still working very well. It's not. I think it's dropped. We've got some strange language now, particularly youth.
Yeah. What's can you give me an example?
Peng, deng.
Peng?
Peng. P-E-N-G.
Peng.
Peng.
Okay.
Peng. Peng.
Peng.
Peng. Meaning good.
Peng, yeah. Can you use that in a sentence?
No.
Like, would you say like, I had a pang workout today? If it was a good workout?
No, it's no, but how would you? Fucking hell. You'd probably describe something as being peng in response. So it'd be, it was peng.
Okay, I see. How was BodyPower? If you had a good time, you'd say pang.
Yeah, or it was deng, which means it was shit.
Oh, dang. So that's very close. That's getting very confusing on me real quick there.
That was well joke.
Well joke?
Yeah, meaning that was very funny.
Oh, okay. I could see that. How
No,
about
yeah, but
what?
some of them are just fucking stupid.
How about here's another Welsh one. Chopsy? Chopsy? It's a smart ass loudmouth.
I've not heard that one. No.
Okay, okay. Lush, meaning really
Good.
nice or
Rich.
attractive.
Yeah, lush, attractive, rich, good. As in rich as in nice, as in opulent rich, not as in money rich, if you know what I mean.
Okay, yeah, like that car or he or she is lush.
Yeah.
That's the way he describes it. Huh.
Yeah.
And then I got one more here. Tamping, meaning angry.
No, I can't say I've really heard that used.
Yeah, I haven't either. He had what was? Yeah, he had a bunch of them. We went through a bunch of the British ones, a bunch of the English ones.
Some of the youth stuff now. I mean, they'll say something is bare or bare good.
Oh, really?
Which means it's very good.
I've heard that one before. Yeah.
So I used to take the piss out of my daughter constantly with it because we'd just say, "Oh, that's well rabbit," and that's really bung. Just random words that mean absolutely shit.
Yeah.
She used to wind the hell out of her because it's like, well, it's exactly the same. You're just taking a word that means jack shit to do with what you're talking about and using it in a sentence. So why can't I do the same?
Right, right. You guys could have your own language there.
Yeah.
That's funny, man. All right, well, hey, let's get to a break, and when we come back, we've got a few questions from the board. Sound like a deal?
Yeah, no good.
All right, guys, we'll be back in just a minute. Dave, do you have to pop to the loo or anything?
No, but I'm going to pull my joggies up because they're falling down off my ass for some reason. That's better.
All right, that was another one of the slang words or slang phrases. Pop to the loo. I was using that off of the. I actually must have pulled that one off because you responded like you knew what I was saying there for a minute.
You did say it very deliberately, so I thought it was a very conscious use of a word. I didn't actually realise it was on the list, but yeah, it did seem to be a very deliberate comment. Whereas I'd just say, no, I'm off for a slash.
A slosh?
Yeah, piss, a slash.
A slosh. I like that one.
S-L-A-S-H.
Slosh. Yeah, that sounds messy too.
As in the guitarist from Guns N' Roses.
Oh, Slash. Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, slash.
Huh.
When I'm off to water my horse.
I
don't know where that came from, to be honest, but basically I'm off to water my horse.
That's a good one too. All right. I'm looking at the questions we had here, trying to find out where we were. Recently lowered my TRT dose from 1 milliliter a week down to 0.5 milliliters twice a week. Seems as though I think we have not covered this question, so I'm going to start here.
Okay.
All right. All right, guys, welcome back to Drugs and Stuff with Dave Crosland, and I'm Scott McNally. We're over at the forum right now, forum.advertiserradio.com, and actually, if I click this button, then everybody will see exactly where we are at. So, like I said, forum.advertiserradio.com. In the bodybuilding section, we have threads for all the shows stickied at the top. And we are going to Dave BG first. This is in the Drugs and Stuff thread. He says, I have recently lowered my TRT dose from 1 milliliter twice a week back down to 0.5 milliliters twice a week. It seems as though my pump these days is unreal. If I go for a jog or walk, the pump gets overwhelming. Also, the workout pumps are extreme as well. I haven't had a blood test since the decrease. It has only been a week since the reduction. What would cause the increase in pump? Is there something of a concern? Sometimes my legs just get so tight, even without doing a thing. It is a familiar feeling back when I would take EQ. Although I only did that for 2 weeks before jumping off because I'm the nervous type of pump because of nervousness or similar type of pump feeling throughout my body. Huh. Love to hear your thoughts. So keep in mind, Dave,
So if we're talking test, and what we're saying is he was originally running, we're assuming somewhere around 500 to 600 milligrams a week, depending on his dosage.
Exactly. And now he's down to half that.
Now, did he say he was cruising on that? He said that was his TRT, didn't he?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
I mean, he's excessive on TRT as it is now with his dosing. He was on a cycle before.
Right.
I would be curious to know how long he's been on. I would suspect that it's a weird one, actually, especially without any bloods, because is the pump now a product of his previous dosage?
It's only been 2 weeks.
Exactly. I mean, it's only been, he said he started within a week of him dropping his dose.
Yeah.
But his blood levels aren't going to have declined that much within those few days, especially if he's running an anthate, which I'm assuming he is, or Cypionate or Sust or something of that nature.
Right.
Did he say how long he'd been on the 500 before he dropped?
He doesn't, although he does have a contest picture here that he attached. And I mean, he's obviously in good shape, which leads me to believe, I would guess, he had been on this for a whole prep,
If he's been on the drug for a long period of time, then it could potentially be the fact that the reduction in dose has allowed his body just to operate a little bit healthier and it's under less stress.
Okay, yeah.
If he's only been on the high dose for a couple of weeks or a few weeks and then he's panicked and reduced it, it could be that it's just the fact that he's suddenly starting to get the effects of the high dose, and this pump drops away very quickly within a week or so as his body drops back down to the new dosing.
Okay.
It could be an RBC issue if he's been on for a very long time. I know that he mentions that it was very similar to when he ran EQ, but EQ is not particularly the fastest acting compound in the world. So, and then it could just be psychological. It's difficult to really say without a bit more information, to be fair. I sort of need to ask him questions and dig a bit, because there's not something looking at that goes, yes, it's me, you know what I mean? I don't see anything that jumps out. You would normally associate the increase in pump with the increase in dose, but it would be the reverse if he'd been on a long time and his body was getting quite toxic from it.
Oh, because you'd be feeling healthier now, you're saying. And
yeah.
I gotcha. Yeah.
So you'd actually be performing better, even though you might not realize that.
Yeah.
And everything would just be working a little bit better. So it's, without knowing more, it's difficult to give him an exact cause. And hopefully, he listens to this and he'll come back with some more information on that. So we're looking for how long has he run the 500?
Yeah.
Prior to this, has he made any other changes? And what his history is leading up to this point. I mean, simple things that people don't even realize that they change without thinking about it. You lower the dose and all of a sudden you're sleeping better.
Yeah, that's true.
And you're more recovered, so you have a more effective workout. You get better mind-muscle connection. You get a better response in the gym. And a lot of people don't see these elements.
Yeah. I just sent him a note saying that we could use more information. That makes total sense to me. I mean, at the end of the day, what, Dave? It sounds like he's concerned because he says, I felt this way when I took EQ, and I thought maybe, I think he was thinking, maybe something was wrong with his blood. I mean, realistically, lab work, right? Get blood work.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're concerned, get blood work. But what you don't want to be doing is chopping and changing on stupid impulses because you're panicking about what you don't actually know is going on.
Yeah, kind of like even the EQ thing, right? He ran EQ for 2 weeks and then he got scared and stopped. I would also consider, is he really in a position mentally where he should be using drugs unsupervised? Okay.
Because he does sound like he's very much second-guessing himself, and that's not really a position you want to be in when it comes to drug management.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You really need someone to sit there and make the decisions for you if you're going to be one of these people that, same reason why coaches use people who have adequate knowledge to prep for a comp will use someone else to prep their diet because they want to switch off and have that answerability so they don't second guess themselves.
Sure, yeah. Speaking of which, are you still working with Vicky?
Yeah, but as she will probably tell you, speak to her, I've not been a good boy, so lest we say that out of there.
Should I dial Vicky up right now and have her call you out on the show? All right.
It's not been terrible. It's actually more been a lack of eating than it has been eating too much of the wrong shit.
Yeah. Okay.
So like BodyPower, I ate a breakfast, which was within diet. Didn't eat all day because I never really had time. Hadn't had time to do any prep before I went, and then we were going out for restaurant meals on a night. So yeah, it was just a case of minimum damage off the menus.
It's hard, man, when you're traveling. You know, it really, especially like if you're not trying to get ready for a show or something. So
the motivation is low, and so the excuses are high. Anyway, something I want to bring up, Mr. Scott, sir.
Yes.
What's with this new fancy trying to be old Swiss background?
Oh, you like that?
Well, it's just a grey sheet, but it because of the way it's a little bit wrinkled, it actually has quite a nice texture look to it.
Thank you, sir. It's I went to school for photography, believe it or not, and what you're looking at here,
and that's the best you can come up with.
Yes, what you're looking at here is actually a roll of paper. You can see the roll there at the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're just looking at a roll of paper, and I have a background light hitting that. Just the way I would set up a portrait studio, pretty much, is what it comes down to. So I figured if I was gonna try to compete with, if I had to sit next to Dave Crosland here with his snazzy Crosland harm reduction backdrop, I better at least do something better than my wall, you know.
Well, branded and logoed next week, sir.
Yes. All right, I'm going to move on to the next question here. I've never heard this. He says AOP chaps. What's EYOPP? 2 words. AOP. Am I saying that right?
Yeah. Hello.
AOP chaps.
AOP.
I like that. Dave has talked previously about taking test in a pulsatile fashion. Being beneficial. I ran out of my test E for self TRT, and I'm getting by on test base pre-workout at a dose that adds up to TRT across the week. Is this a good or a bad idea? I feel good. I feel good, and it's a great pre-workout. I'm taking 150 milligrams of Primo throughout the week also, and I'm not without anabolic assistance once test-based has he says basically he's using 150 milligrams of Primo throughout the week so that he always does have some anabolic assistance in there. But his only testosterone he's using is T&E, and it looks like he's dosing it at a level that would only come to TRT levels per if you broke it down for the weekly dose.
Don't see anything particularly wrong with it. It's a little bit unusual. I would, with a pulsile, obviously you want to maintain some sort of low level test.
Okay.
And then a pulsile on top. But most people do that using test prop.
Okay.
Rather than test base, because test base's half-life is literally hours. But depending on what dose he's administrating at what time, it's not going to be a million miles away, to be fair.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, obviously it's working for him. And I would have thought if he's running them doses at that level where he's saying it's very close to TRT overall, then I would suspect that estrogen is not going to be a concern in any way, shape or form. So be interested to know how he gets on long term with that, actually.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
But there's nothing that I'm jumping out there that's going, ooh, shit, no, fuck off. Okay. It all seems fairly sensible.
Yeah. I mean, as long as he's feeling okay, you don't have much room, I guess, TRT wise. Like you said, it's only going to last hours. So
yeah, I mean, you're probably, what would you be looking at milligram wise? This is going to be a very ballpark rough figure.
Yeah.
Let's say. Right, hang on, 50. Just doing some maths. Just bear with me. 65, okay. 185. So 185 would equal 80, 66. So he's probably looking at pulses around 40, 50 milligram
per shot. You're saying?
Yeah,
okay.
Per shot.
So 40, 50 milligram per shot. I mean, that comes out to.
That's going to get his test levels in, and should, if my maths is roughly correct, get his test NMOL levels somewhere around the 20s.
Oh, okay.
Which is obviously ranges 8 point whatever it is to 30-ish.
Oh, okay. So I figured it was much less. I just started thinking like, okay, if you're using Test E at 250, then 28 milligrams a day would be that fraction, but it wouldn't. That's not the way the math
No,
works.
Well, the first thing you got to remember about 250 meg test E is that you're only getting about 180, 190 milligrams of actual test.
Oh, after you cleave the ester off, you're saying?
Because you got to cleave the ester. Yeah, so that's the first thing, and
okay.
Test base is pure test.
Okay, I gotcha.
So that 180 post injection is going to net you an NMOL level of around 80.
Okay. Huh.
So roughly working it out, ballpark figures, you're probably looking at your NMOL value being just a little bit over half of what your MIG value is at point of injection.
Okay, no kidding.
So I'm guessing that we're looking at around the 40 to 50 MIG mark to create something in the 20s.
Okay.
But if anyone actually knows or has data or graph data on that, then please let me know, because I haven't got anything graph-wise that shows blood plasma off base. I've only got stuff on propionate, enthanate, cypionate, and sustanon.
Okay.
So I'd like to know what it is off base.
We got a question here. Another question from Bagel Ninja. He says, "Hey, Mr. Crosland, can you please give an overview of how to balance anabolic androgenic ratios to minimize toxicity? I hear this mentioned all the time, but have had trouble digging up source material to research the subject." I'm not even super sure what he's asking here, Dave.
Right. I've often said that though this isn't technically correct, a very layman's way of looking at toxicity of a cycle is to look at anabolic values against androgenic values of drugs.
Okay.
We know that the higher the androgenic value in the drug, the more stressful it is to the central nervous system, the more stressful it is to the body. It's not exact, but as layman's simplified term go, as a rough guide, it's quite a simple idea to implicate in what you do, or implement, should I say, in what you do.
Okay.
So the basic idea is that when you plan a cycle, you can, obviously, the higher you get your anabolics, the more you're going to have a chemical advantage in growth. But the lower we keep as androgenics, then the less stressful that is going to be on blood work and the body in general. A prime example of this is if you look at, say, for argument's sake, bloods on someone who's done 2 grams of test, and bloods on someone who's done 2 grams of DECA, you'll find a blood work on a 2 gram of DECA a lot closer to range than you will on a 2 gram of test.
Okay.
Now, there are other aspects towards using DECA that haven't been considered in that. That's only based on blood work. So the fact that DECA has a greater impact on myocardium tissue, or the fact that DECA has greater impacts in neural toxicity isn't considered in that. So I'm not, for one argument, saying DECA is safer than test, but my point is that DECA has a much lower androgenicity than test does. DECA's in the 40s, test is in the 100, and as a result, you see that reflected in the stress on the body in the blood work.
Oh, that makes sense.
So we know the harshest chemical out there really as base compounds is trenbolone. And then you've got derivatives of that like M-Trem and stuff like that, which have incredibly high androgenic values, some into the tens of thousands.
Okay.
So high androgenic drugs will make you feel shittier quicker.
Yeah, I've seen that in my own life.
Yeah. So it's something you see on the platform in powerlifting as well, because they use a lot of fast-acting androgens to help, so like check drops, stuff like that, halo, check drops, M-Trem, they'll use pre-lift.
Yeah.
And you'll see when they're getting into the final lift of the day that this is obviously their 9th lift they've done that day.
Mm-hmm.
They're fatiguing from max effort, but you'll also see they're starting to fatigue from androgen overloads as well, because they've used many boosting androgens throughout the day, that they're starting to fatigue because of that as well. So they come on the platform extremely wired, ready to lift, but actually the central nervous system is so stressed they actually struggle to lift correctly. That's why you see a lot of guys bomb on the last lifts. But anyway, we're digressing slightly.
But it makes sense, and it adds up to I see where you're going with that.
Yeah, so the basic thing is, if you can keep the androgenic levels lower, you're going to have less stress on your body. Less stress, body's going to grow better because it's healthier to grow.
In general, I just from talking to you, would you say that you are not as big of a fan of the androgenic compounds for personal use?
I think they have their place.
Okay.
But I think they're often overused because they are powerful.
Okay.
So I think they have their use, and I think it's a case of horses for courses. So, I mean, I'm not a fan of Tren in any way, shape or form, but I do use it with clients if there's a need for it.
Okay.
It's a powerful drug, it's an effective drug, but it has to be respected. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't.
What do you think of Halo as far as its cosmetic benefits? Guys using it for, say, the last 2 weeks of a contest prep.
I personally would look more towards Superdraw.
Yeah, really. Okay.
Yeah, or if you were lean, Oxys.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've always been, like, when I'm super lean, I've always been leery, but I've heard it works really well.
It does. Where I see Halo coming in is a lot where people are still a little bit fat and they're trying to sort of cheat out of that problem by trying to get water levels as low as they can and trying to get as hard as they can. And Halo is useful in that role, but all things being equal, what you've done there is you're still a fat git. That's why you're holding water, and that's why you're having to try and cheat that situation using the drug's effect. So
right.
It's useful for some people training wise, depending on how they like to train and diet going into a show. So some people need to stay lifting quite heavy, quite late into a show for the simple reason as their head goes if they don't.
Yeah.
I'm bad for that. When my performance in the gym reduces, I struggle to stick with diets because I know it's the diet that's causing my performance drop, and I don't like that. So I can see where Halo's useful there because it will maintain performance to a degree, but it is a very toxic compound and it will take its toll. And one of the problems people have with water on stage is stress.
Yeah.
They're too stressed. Their bodies are just too stressed. As soon as you stress a body, it will hold water.
Yeah. Yeah, no question about that.
All
right. No, I was just curious because I've heard some people say that they felt that Halo was highly overvalued, that it doesn't create that much of a cosmetic effect. I've liked it. Every prep that I've ever done, I had always used it, at least for like the last 2 to 3 weeks. But at the same time, though, it's like I've only done that because I haven't wanted to chance it. I haven't wanted to risk, not getting as crazy looking as I could have.
I think as well that if you're proper lean, shoving pretty much any oral in on the day is going to have a good impact.
Yeah.
I've known, I mean, if you look at orals, and if you were to pick one oral that you should not use in the last 2 weeks before going on stage, most people would say Dynamo.
Yeah, I can see that because of the estrogen.
Yeah. But if you're super lean, I have seen people go in on Dynamo and come in dry and full.
Really? Really?
So if you are in true condition, any oral thrown in for those last 2 weeks is going to have a positive impact on how you look.
Okay.
And I think that's sometimes the bit that's overlooked, that it's not possibly particularly that the drug is causing any magic, it's just the fact that you were lean.
Yeah.
And as a result, you've maximized the response you've got out of that drug, because obviously the leaner you are, any subtle changes is so much more dramatic.
Sure. All right, I'm going to go on to one more question here. We got a few more left, but this will be a good one to end on, and then we'll have a couple to start with for the next episode. But guys, we would love to have you take part in the show. Like I said, we are over at forum.advicersradio.com. We're in the bodybuilding section. If you just go to the website, advicersradio.com, you can click on the forum button, and in the bodybuilding section there are threads sticking at the top. We've got a Dear Davey.
Oh, yes.
Yes, we can finish on that one. He says, "Hey, fellas, love the show. I listen to it every day on my trek to work. I've been following Dave on YouTube for years. So naturally, Drugs and Stuff is my favorite show. I watched the Under Construction films and was always amazed by Dave's work ethic and unrelenting drive to be as big as a human could be." Yes. He says,
right?
Dear Davy question here. Dear Davy, my girlfriend has been struggling to cope with the stresses of medical school, and she has let herself go a little bit. She has self-identified that she is gaining some not so good weight, but isn't really interested in doing anything about it and has moved away from serious fitness in her life. I don't care. I just want her to be happy, and I love her just the same. But she is becoming increasingly unforgiving with me and my desires to bodybuild. She still trains, but more for wellness and stress relief. Dave, was there anything you did with your wife to help her understand why you wanted to become so monstrously large? It seems she was very accepting and supportive of your unorthodox ways. Seeing as Scott has a girlfriend now, congrats, buddy. His input would also be appreciated. Thanks, guys. I hope this makes it into the show. Of course it made it into the show. This is a great question. And guys, we haven't talked about it for a little while, but this segment is called Dear Davy, where Dave answers. We've got what's the YouTube channel called? I know you don't like the name, but we have the 400-pound freak answering love and relationship questions, which makes this my favorite part of the show. Dave, what are your thoughts here on this Dear Davy question?
I think that the lack of, or the change or lack of acceptance is more to do with the fact that I'm going that what he said is exactly what's going on. So I'm assuming that he's quite dedicated and quite consistent with his diet and his training and the restrictions that puts on a person.
Yeah.
And I think that probably the motivation behind her current lack of support and her potential questioning what he's doing is one of two things. It's firstly either that she's feeling guilt due to a lack of her own dedication to what she's doing.
Yeah.
As a result, his constant dedication constantly reminds her that she feels that she's failing.
Sure, that's possible.
And so as a result of that, she's negative about what he does because we know that misery likes company, and it's in human nature that if you're failing to achieve, then bring them down to your level and then you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
However, it may be that she feels that her life is more rounded now. She's not as lifestyle fitness focused.
Yeah.
And she may feel that she is actually happier. And that may be the motivation behind why she started to become critical of what he's doing, because she feels he will be happier if he has a more balanced and relaxed approach to life. Because let's get this right. Doing what I did is not balanced, and it's definitely not the actions of someone who's mentally well-rounded at that time. And it's definitely not healthy. And, you know, there's probably a million and one other things you could say that are negatives about what I did because it was obsessive.
Let me ask you this, Dave. Looking back now in hindsight and knowing the stress that it put on, you know, the relationship, Would you understand if your wife had said, "I can't deal with this. I'm done with this"? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she did.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing was, at the point at which she said enough is enough, I'd already said, don't worry, enough is enough, I'm done.
Yeah.
So we met the same point at the same time.
Okay.
There were definitely aspects of what I did that she didn't like, and public attention was a big part of that.
Yeah.
She hated the public attention. She hated the freak show.
Yeah.
She hated the inability to go anywhere without it causing a stir.
Yeah.
And it got, at my biggest, it got to the point where I couldn't walk down the street without being stopped. I couldn't go anywhere without being stopped and asked for photographs. Simple shopping trips became, and it was very strange. It was very surreal. I mean, obviously I am to some small degree known within the industry now. So she accepts that people want to talk to me about what I do or want advice or whatever, particularly at events. But at that point, doing what I was doing, I wasn't as well known. And it was very strange being stopped in the street, asked for a photograph with somebody who I never even knew.
I bet. Yeah.
And it was really weird. And she found that very intrusive, and she very much didn't like that aspect of things.
Because that's not what she signed up for when she met you.
No, not at all. She signed up for me training. She signed up for all that, and she knew it was something that I had a deep desire to complete, and she supported me in that.
Yeah.
But she supported me probably at her expense.
Yeah.
So she was understanding of what I was doing, and she was understanding of what I was trying to achieve.
Yeah.
But that didn't mean she liked it. She didn't.
Yeah, fair enough on that.
And she didn't like the impact that my eating had on the family. That was a big issue. And it's like, well, what do you mean? It's like, well, we can't go out for a meal. We can't do anything sporadic or impulsive because I've got to prep my food and bring it with me. And I've got to stop every hour to an hour and a half and eat.
Yeah.
And I was very religious in that timing because if I didn't, I wouldn't get it all in.
Yeah.
And so that was a big restriction to her, and a restriction that as time went on became more and more of a problem.
I could see that.
And, you know, I appreciate very much now and then the support she gave me with something that definitely for the back half of it, she didn't agree with anymore. She knew what the project was, and she was very aware of what we were attempting and what I was attempting to do. But obviously, you don't really realize what you're signing up for.
Yeah.
And as things got more and more extreme, she got more and more reluctant. But she was never unvocal about that. She said her piece when her piece needed to be said, and I love her for that, and I appreciated that because there was what I didn't need at that stage was somebody who was a yes person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Needed at that stage was someone to tell me the truth, and she did that. So, you know, sometimes in supporting people, that also means not agreeing with them, in challenging what they do, in making them question what they do, in making them look at it from a different angle, because we can get very blinded to what we're doing. We can get very tunnel vision to what we're doing, and to the point where actually we start to deteriorate with that. I can give you examples of loads of people currently that are going through this, but I'm not going to do because I don't want to betray the trust of people. But the same thing is, it's a lot more common in our sport than people realize.
Yeah. Is it selfish? Is it selfish of her to want him to see her perspective though? Like you said, maybe she's got a better perspective and she feels like her life is better without this, without fitness. Is it selfish of her to say, okay, well, I want you to see my perspective too?
I don't think it's selfish of her to ask him to look at it. It's selfish of her to enforce it.
Yeah.
And this is one time where you see problems occur in relationships when two people have shared a passion.
Yeah.
And then one person loses that passion.
Yep.
they can sometimes, very often, lose the reason they were together.
Yeah.
Because actually a big proportion of why they're together was their shared passion, and not, you couldn't, to a degree, you couldn't get more polar opposite than me and my wife.
Okay.
I'm 6'2", she's 5 foot.
Yeah.
Well, 5'2", but we won't tell her that.
Yeah.
She's 5 foot. Our music tastes are completely different.
Really? I know what you're into. What kind of music does she like?
She likes like ABBA and Bon Jovi and your more classic rock type stuff.
Okay.
And, she's got quite an eclectic taste.
Okay.
But it's very different to mine.
Yeah.
And food enjoyments are very different. Our taste palettes are very different.
Yeah.
She thinks cheesecake is abhorrent, you know what I mean? And I think she's nuts, but that's just one of those things.
But if you guys both went into the relationship loving cheesecake, and that was like your thing, that every Friday you went out to try some new cheesecake, and then all of a sudden she was like, I don't like cheesecake anymore, and I don't, I'm kind of irritated that you want to go out for cheesecake every Friday. I don't think that she has the right to do that, right?
No, but at the same time, does he have a right to go for cheesecake every Friday if it's no longer a shared passion? People change.
I don't know, man. I think that yes.
So if you've done something religiously from day one,
yeah.
I'm not saying that you can't go out for cheesecake anymore. I like the fact that we're using cheesecake for this analogy. It's fucking brilliant. I'm not stopping you going out for cheesecake.
Yeah.
You go.
Yeah.
But I ain't going.
Yeah, but I think that she's saying though, like, but I don't want you to go for cheesecake either,
Yeah, and I think with all relationships you have to look at balance.
Yeah.
If his gym time and his diet time and his listening to our amazing podcast time is taking up far more percentage proportion of their time together than what she's asking of their time together, then there's not a balance, is there?
Yeah.
And it was okay when they shared the gym time, but now that isn't happening anymore. So it's a conversation. But it's whether she can be honest in that conversation, because if she's resenting what he's doing out of jealousy and the fact that she feels she's slipped backward and she feels it's just not achievable anymore, then it's going to be very difficult to get her to be honest and open up about that in a conversation.
Yeah, but
that's not going to be an easy admit that.
At the other side of things, I guess, if he's super obsessive and that's taking away from their time and the relationship, then there's that aspect too, that maybe, like you said, balance, maybe there is something where he needs to at least look at it and ask himself, like, should I be dialing this back? And that's probably a question he has to answer for himself, right?
True, and I think a lot of it depends on, like, for me, with my project, there were several aspects to that project that I don't think people fully realize sometimes. There was definitely that very big what-if question I had, and I had it for a very long time. How far can I go?
Yeah.
And that would always have been there if I never answered it. I needed, for me as a person, I needed to scratch that unscratchable itch. I needed to do that.
Yeah.
Because that was very much for me a part of me completing, I suppose, almost a demon that I carried for a very long time. Through that process, I was tested. I failed at certain areas. I learned a lot about myself.
Yeah.
But that process also had other aspects to it as well. It was also about creating a brand.
Yeah, which has been successful in that respect, right?
And the brand was me.
Yeah.
And it was also about creating a platform to deliver harm reduction from.
Yeah.
I got into this conversation with someone the other day. Now, he mistook my comments as being derogatory, and they weren't. I questioned why he was using so many drugs.
Okay.
And he thought I was having a pop. And I said, look, I didn't say it was negative. I'm asking why you're using so many drugs. Turned out it was coach, and it was his coach to put him on what he was doing, and that was the reason why it was where it was. But a comment was also made that his retort was, well, didn't you take shitloads of drugs and fuck yourself up? And it's a very valid point. I did.
Yeah.
But then also, who would you want to speak to most? The guy who's read it in a book?
Yeah.
Or the guy who lived it?
Sure.
So there was what I've always tried to do is there are people out there that are more knowledgeable than me about steroids, loads of people that are more knowledgeable about steroids, are more technically correct about steroids, and I do oversimplify things so it's easier to communicate and stuff like that. And I try and put things across in a very simple format so it doesn't become overly technical and the average person can follow. But there aren't many people out there that live where I live through. There ain't many people out there that's done the doses I've done, the way I've done it, at the size I was and everything else.
Yeah.
Most your research intelligent people are quite nerdy.
Yeah.
If you go, so
like
so
no offense to Alex that we had on the other week, but like he didn't know really anything. I don't think he had any personal experience with gear, really.
No, and it's like, what does a high dose do to a person? Well, it does this, and this. It can affect. Yeah, all right. Look, I'm telling you what it does when you live with it.
Yeah.
I'm telling you how shitty you feel when you're living with it.
Yeah.
And so, there may be motivations behind what he's trying to achieve that he feels are something he just has to get through, and that will complete him if he does so. I wouldn't want to live with the regret of not having tried something.
Yeah.
Obviously within reason, but there's certain things in my life I really don't need to experience. Eating Brussels sprouts is one of them. So it's also very much a case of what's important for each individual. And the only way they're going to find that out is by being honest with each other.
Yeah.
And it does become almost a bit of a negotiation. It's like, well, yes, you can do this, and you can do this and do this and do that if you do this, this, and this. And that's effectively what a successful relationship is. It might not be that clinically done, but it is a business negotiation at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because you negotiate what each party wants out of the relationship and in return to what each party is going to put into the relationship.
Right.
And when one party feels that their input doesn't balance what they're getting out of it, or their input doesn't balance with the input of the others, that's when you start getting friction in a relationship.
Yeah.
So, as I say, to me, there's two motivations behind her change of heart. One is guilt, and one is seeing a broader spectrum of things and feeling that there's more to life. And the only way they will get through that is to be honest. But it's whether they can be honest to the degree that's needed to be to work through this. But I think it needs to start with asking the question and talking.
And also too, if he is, he could ask himself, like you said, if it's getting in the way of his relationship where he's got to bring all these meals with him, I'll tell you what, there was a point early on when I was really focused in bodybuilding that it really was a cramp in everyday life. I found a way to balance it over time where I could still do the things I needed to do, but I could also say, go to the park. I could do the things that I wanted to do, things that worked things for other people. But had to look at more than just the training. Had to look at relationship, had to look at, work, everything else. There's a balance in there that I think you can strike where you could still achieve the things you want to achieve while still giving to other people. I think that maybe he needs to look at that. Possibly. I don't know. Maybe he's already doing those things.
One of the issues with this is that we have a perceived reward for what we do, and that quite often isn't actually what it's going to be. Okay. We perceive that if we get to a certain condition or get to a certain size or achieve a certain weight, that's going to somehow significantly impact our lives.
Yeah, you've talked about that so many times with having stepped on the scale in UC too.
Yeah. And generally, when we get there, for a lot of people, it isn't as fulfilling as we thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
But it is very easy to go down a rabbit hole and become very tunnel focused to the point where you stop seeing other things. It is much more difficult to remain balanced. And depending on your level of desired achievement will depend on your level of commitment that it's required. And obviously you're not going to be a pro and you're not going to be successful as a pro if you're not extremely committed to what you do.
Yeah.
But you still need to manage your time and you still need to manage your relationships, because at the same time, there's no point being a pro if you're lonely, sat in a flat on your own, miserable with no fucking mates.
Right, right.
Because it's a very hollow victory because you've got very little substance in your life.
Yeah.
Because, to be fair, the rest of the world doesn't really give a shit.
Yeah. And that's even if you're good enough to turn pro,
yeah.
You know?
So trying to find balance is problematic for a lot of people who train.
Yeah.
And you see a lot of people get very obsessed with it. Now, it's okay if both parties are obsessed with it.
Yeah.
But if one isn't, then that will cause friction, without doubt. But I think if he talks to her and she starts to become very overly defensive,
yeah,
it's probably the guilt, you're looking better than me issue, and not so much that she's seen a broader spectrum. If she's understanding and communicating calmly, then chances are it is that she's seen the broader spectrum. Because if you've seen a broader spectrum of life and you think, you know what, there's so much more to life that you're missing out on, you're not going to be aggressive with somebody when you discuss that matter.
Yeah, yeah. That's a good point.
You will get aggressive if you're defending.
Yeah, if you're trying to sway somebody, trying to be what's the word I'm looking for? Persuasively, you know.
Yeah. So if you're trying to say, right, well, I feel I look like shit. He looks brilliant. I can't cope with this. So if I make him look like shit, then I won't feel as bad. Is the basic setup. That will be met with aggression when it's challenged.
Yeah.
And you where if it's
go ahead.
Where it's very much, I've seen the light.
Yeah.
And there's so much more to life that you're missing out on. You're not going to be aggressive about that.
No.
You're going to be positive about that.
And you would probably be patient too, because you would have to understand, well, maybe he won't understand it out the gate, but I'll tell him my side of things and maybe he'll see it one day, you know?
Yeah.
That type of thing.
It's quite strange having gone through the process of being so dedicated and obsessive.
Yeah.
To the point where it was detrimental. That it's very difficult not to come out the side and almost be a little bit condescending about it all. But it's decisions that you as an individual has to make as to what the balance and reward is in your life for what you're sacrificing to achieve what you're doing.
Yeah.
I know people that are very, very driven towards goals, and not just training goals, but work goals. And I've been this way myself, and I still get this way now. In fact, I did it yesterday. I got up yesterday morning. I live in a beautiful part of the world. It was sunny. And I thought, you know what? Before I do anything, I'm just going to sit outside with a dog and have a coffee.
Yeah.
And I sat and just watched the world, looked at the view, and thought, I don't do this often enough. I'm so driven to getting this project finished or achieving this or doing that I stop. I don't stop often enough to just go, you know what? Where I am is not bad.
Yeah.
I don't need to continually strive forward.
Yeah.
I can sit back and just enjoy the now and maybe pick it up in a week. You know what I mean?
Right.
Every day doesn't have to be a head down fight. Sometimes I've got to just put my head up and look.
Yeah.
And I'd got the last few weeks, BodyPower, workloads, military work's been very high, client work's been very high, and I just got to the point where I was getting a little bit like, oh, fuck's sake. And I just went, whoa, boom, like, fucking hell, there is a world out there.
Yeah.
I don't have to be glued to that desk 14 hours a day,
right.
15 hours a day, you know. I can just put my phone down and spend half an hour with a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
But literally prior to Monday, my phone was never out of my hand.
Yeah.
And I was never stopping. And it's like, this isn't good. This is getting obsessive again. Just pull back.
Yeah, it's good that you can see that. He asked.
No, I don't always.
No, well, but you can catch yourself. It's good. It's good that you can catch yourself. I think that versus go through a decade, or go through a relationship and then have it end and not see it until hindsight. It's good you can see yourself, pull yourself out in the moment.
There are aspects of my project and its pressure on our relationship that I definitely didn't see at the time. And we have talked since, and my wife has said certain things, and it's like, shit, really?
Okay.
Yeah. I hated that, or I hated this.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah. And I am indebted to her, to be honest, forever in our relationship, for the support she showed me in going through all that. Because now, looking at it from the outside, I can see how it wasn't just my project. It was her project, and she was very much in it as much as I was.
Yeah. I'll add. So he asked my thoughts on it too, and I'll say that I just talked to my girlfriend about this the other day, because her main thing is health. And I'm lucky enough, I'm in a relationship with somebody who is heavily involved in the fitness industry. But what she does is come at things from a health perspective. So I think that her main thing is she just wants me to stay healthy. So she'd be okay with me running Tren, for instance, if it made sense. If I was just a bro abusing Tren and just taking it for whatever reason. She probably wouldn't be happy with that. If I was affecting my health and I continued to use drugs, then she wouldn't be happy with that. But if I am monitoring things, if I had a reason for doing what I'm doing, then I think that, as long as that stuff is thought out and it's not just carelessness, then, she's going to be okay with that. So I'm lucky in that respect. But at the same time, that's kind of like, that's the ideas I would believe in anyway. Like I wouldn't, that's what I stand for to begin with. You know what I mean? So it's not like I have to change it all in order to please her in any way. I'm already doing what I'd want to do. So yeah, it's a good position to be in. But yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
But we can get lost from time to time as well.
Yeah, there's no question in that. I feel like,
and particularly when you start looking at steroid impacts, that can help us get lost.
Especially like if I were, I'll tell you where, and this is what I told her. This like where I'll lose perspective is if I'm competing, and I did that my last prep. Instead of figuring, okay, I'm going to use a reasonable amount of Tren, my logic goes to, well, okay, I have 3 weeks left. How many milliliters of Tren do I have left? That's when your logic starts going to that. Like,
how much more can I get in?
Right. Exactly. Let's see. I've got 30 cc's and there's 30 days. Okay. That got logic there. Yeah. cc a day. That makes sense.
I remember a point in UC2, and it sticks out very, very strongly.
Okay.
Where I sat there and I went, what other drugs can I throw at this?
Yeah.
And that was the point when it needed to stop. That was the point when mentally I'd lost my way.
Yeah.
And you see it with people in training. You see it where people start like, it's your birthday. You're not dieting for a comp.
Yeah.
It's your birthday. Have some cake. No, I can't do that. I'm just going to have a protein shake.
Yeah.
Do you compete? No. Well, why'd you do this? As a hobby.
Yeah.
No. You need to lighten up and be a little bit more rounded. All right, you might not like birthday cake, but at the same time, and they'll argue, well, yeah, but this is what I want. I want to be this strict. No, you don't. What's happened is you've got obsessive. And you're now scared to not be strict because you think that one deviation is going to ruin all your hard work. That's where you've now got a problem starting to form.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's an eating disorder. That is an eating disorder. It may not be your classical one, but it is an eating disorder.
Yeah.
Or that where you can't get to the gym that day and you're biting everybody's head off because you can't get to the gym that day.
Orthorexia, that's the term for.
Is it?
Yeah, for like fitness and health, trying to use fitness and health to almost like as a form of bulimia. You know what I mean? To purge oneself, I guess, through exercise and nutrition and stuff like. I think that's the definition.
I'm impressed. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you get it with training, don't you? And now, fair enough, I understand being frustrated if you've not been able to get to the gym all week.
Yeah.
But if you're missing one session, yeah, it's enough to go, oh, for fuck's sake. But it's not enough to start screaming and shouting at everybody around you because you're not getting to the gym that day.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and that's where you've got to start looking. If you're starting to see those sort of behaviours, then it's very reasonable that your partner's pulling you on it.
Yeah, absolutely. In that case, then I'd be like, okay, yeah, I get it. She's right. I need to dial this back. But it sounds like something he'll have to figure out. And you know what? Do me a favor. Do us a favor. Let us know if you guys have. This is Ben. Is his name? Ben. Let us know if you guys have a discussion on this and how it goes, man. I wish you the best of luck with it. I hope that it goes smoothly. I think that
I do too.
Dave has a good point. You know, if she blows up about it versus if she approaches it with kindness, it's going to be very telling of what her stance is.
I agree.
All right. Well, let's get out of here, Dave. What do you say?
No problem, sir. Yeah, been a long one.
Yes. All right, guys. For another episode of Drugs and Stuff with Dave Crosland, head over to crosslands.org.uk. You can learn more about Dave's services over there, and check out the YouTube channel. We've got all that stuff tagged in the show notes. Of course, go to truenutrition.com. You can use our code advices. We will see you soon. Thanks a lot, Dave.
My pleasure.